We are live, Maddie. Let me know when you got me. We are checking out our pre-runner, which is our first place car from the rally class this weekend. And it was definitely a good weekend for racing. We had quite the good turnout, and it feels good to be kicking off the Best in the Desert season with a W. Steve, where were you? How was your weekend?
It was good, man. I was at home, took the weekend off. Long dune season, so I ended up taking the weekend off. So.
You had a W too then, Steve.
I did. I scored, that's for sure. But today, let's not talk about me. Let's talk about the post-race inspection. And we have to go over to Justin to go talk about that.
I think we could up that intro for today because he is...
Because I smell a winner.
I smell the winner. The wiener himself.
Thank you very much, Steve. Appreciate that. That introduction turned into a wiener somehow.
Whatever.
Well, yeah, so we went out to Parker this weekend. We did not have our race car finished in time, and so we decided to go racing anyway, since everybody had taken off the time that they needed for the race. Our families were coming, and we didn't want to disappoint and not do anything, of course. Plus, we love racing, no matter what we're racing. And we put some fuel in the pre-runner that had just come back from the Baja 1000 pre-run and entered that in rally. Had a great time. Ton of fun. That class is badass. We're gonna go over what that class is in just a little bit. And we're also gonna go over all of the things that on our pre-runner that we wore out, broke, or we're about to break, and cancel our race pretty quick. Because we wanna be able to tell people who maybe are racing in this class or other classes what typical things are that you're gonna run into and have problems with. At least the things that we run into might be something that you can run into too.
There was another reason we didn't have Matt out there this weekend in the rally class.
And Matt normally runs rally, and we had to represent Matt a little bit, right, Matt?
I was up watching from the top of Osborne Wash. Very happy for the shock therapy team, but very sad I wasn't out there.
It had to be kind of nice for you, Matt. A lot of people thought it was you out there. I'd reassure them that your car was still in two pieces.
Yeah. Yeah.
How long
Nope.
before you get your car back together, Matt? What do you think?
Hopefully by summer.
Awesome, just a couple months.
Got a lot of work to do, Matt. Got a lot of work to do.
Well, I just wanted to say thanks to everybody that was in the rally class for putting up with us, coming over there and having some fun. You guys are great sports, and there's some really fast people in that class. Also, I want to shout out to Bruce at BDI.
Yes, and Brooklyn.
Brooklyn was in the class too, and so was Rick Ness.
She got sixth.
Brooklyn got sixth.
Yeah.
Rick Ness from the Discovery Channel
Yes.
Go Rush show. And Evo's, or Todd Zaccone's.
Yeah, Todd had a great weekend.
Jacobs and Cone.
Was in there too, and I think they were fourth, right? So that's pretty awesome for somebody who just hops in a car and goes and has some fun. So good for them. Good job to Bruce at BDI, who I think thought that he had first place, but then things got changed around when all the times got added up. Mitch Guthrie got first, great job. Bruce got second. Dustin Jones got third, and he started almost last in the class to come to third. That's super impressive.
Our man Phil with solid fourth.
Yeah, Phil Burton in fourth. I think Brandon Sims had a pretty bad day. He was actually in second till last lap and broke something, unfortunately. And Jake Carver didn't get too far before he had fuel pump issues.
We saw him taking a nap out there.
We have some video of Jake taking a nap in the wash. It's pretty good.
He probably took too much advice from Matt over here.
Laying down.
Justin,
Yes,
Johnny Culture 54 wanted to let you know he got third place.
Oh, Johnny.
Congratulations,
Good job.
Johnny.
Excellent. I mean, everybody that's out there racing deserves an applause for even starting and running in the class. Any of the classes, honestly.
I know we had to kind of double take. We kept seeing a car go by, and it was like, wait a second. Oh, wait, no, that's Justin's old car.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I forgot that too. So Chad Freilich and his son, who bought our previous race car, they took the shock therapy off of it, but it still looked just like our stuff with all the red and chrome and everything on it. And they entered in the Pro Turbo class, and they got 11th for the first Best in the Desert entry that they've ever started in. And they had some problems too. I think they had a secondary clutch problem that slowed them down to 50 miles an hour, and they ran the rev limiter the whole last lap. But they got 11th, so congratulations to those guys too. That's pretty badass that they can buy that thing and enter a race and finish, and then actually almost top 10 it.
I don't really know if it counts as them taking off our stickers, just rattle canning shock therapy.
They did rattle can the shock therapy on there. They did. Yeah. And Chad, I did say take the wrap off the car. We're gonna have to have a chat about that. The rattle can didn't quite cut.
I liked it. Honestly, it was a sweet look. We might have to do that on one of our cars.
So, but back to the racing this weekend. Okay, so what is a rally class? We want to do maybe. I'll let you guys know a little bit more about what rally is because we have a lot of people asking. So in Pro Turbo, there's a lot of rules, but basically the cars can be a handmade from the ground up race car. You can throw as much horsepower at it as you want as long as the engine is sealed. You can do anything you want for the trans. The case on the front diff and the case in the trans has to stay the same. Wheelbase, suspension geometry, all those things have to stay the same. You have metal firewalls and a bunch of other safety features that are in the big turbo class. Now, in rally, basically, rally is a place where you can enter a car that has a factory fuel cell. You can enter a car that has opening and shutting doors. Come over on this side, I'll show you. So, opening doors without door bars, which is a rule in the Pro Turbo class that you have to have intrusion bars. Factory fuel cell. And you can run plastic firewall in the car as opposed to an aluminum one back actually between the engine and the passenger's chase, not the front one. So in that area, plastic firewall is legal. And I don't know if they have any rules on what you can do to the engine or not, but
Has to stay stock.
what is it, Matt?
You can't open up the engine and do any kind of upgrades to it.
So that's basically the same as Pro Turbo then. It's a sealed engine type of thing. So bone stock with a flash, right?
Yep.
So rally, you can enter a car that doesn't have a full tilt fuel cell. It doesn't have all this other crazy stuff. And it's a place where you can take, I guess, the perfect car for rally would be your pre-runner.
Yes.
A car that maybe you built a little bit stronger than stock, so it'll put up with, I don't know, pre-running the Baja 500, or going out and testing like you're racing, but you know, you want something that's got a little stronger arm on it, maybe a little better ball joints, maybe a little better axles, and some safety stuff like window nets, seat belts, radio, GPS. Other than that, it's a stock car. That's pretty much what rally is. And when we didn't have our race car done, and we wanted to go have fun, we dusted off the pre-runner and entered it because that is the only class that would accept the pre-runner, I believe. If you think about it, man, I don't know exactly the rules. I didn't look at it because I knew the car was bone stock, but it would be fine.
So a lot of times that class is where cars get bumped down to when they don't qualify for other classes. Like they'll build a car and be missing, like, you know, have a plastic rear firewall.
But it's a race car.
But it's a race car. They'll still move them down to rally class and force them to race rally, even if they register for the other one, because it does not pass tech.
So sometimes you can have a pretty full tilt race car in rally, but majority of the time, you know, it's your play car with some strength on it.
I've raced a few of them, and I know some have been, you know, light years beyond this car. They were fully built race cars that, you know, they got around it with opening doors.
Well, you know, I got to tell you guys, we don't have any intent on staying in rally and doing the rest of the year like that. This is a one-time shot because we didn't have another car to race. But the guys that are in rally are fast, and they're moving up as they get faster into the other classes. I think it's an amazing place to see future racers grow. And I just want to tell everybody thanks for letting us go out there and have some fun too.
OCFF Motorsports, fun racing with you guys. They had the red Can-Am out there.
Oh, right on. Very cool. Awesome. Thanks. Have fun racing with you guys too.
they broke.
Ah, that's too bad. That's
Another
normal.
front sway bar.
Yeah.
Robert Campbell just wanted to mention, I saw him posted on a video that he did, but you were one of the only cars that slowed down for the flag for where Robbie's car had been flipped, and actually slowed your race down and followed, you know, gave them the room to work.
Awesome.
So he wanted to thank you again. He actually posted a video of you slowing down because no one did. Apparently, a lot of people,
you know,
just flew past that.
there's reasons for flags and course workers trying to slow you down. Give them a chance to do their job, man. It's not gonna screw your race up for 5 seconds.
Do you know where Robbie finished? We have a lot of people asking. I know he was with Max, right?
Yeah, he was somewhere in like the 18th range.
Well, so what I heard was that they had hit a rock in that corner of the wash that we came through and caught them working on the car. They hit a rock, flipped the car, broke a lot of the front end, and they had to weld a lot of parts back on. So they spent a lot of time on the car fixing it, and with the welding done, they got back in the race and then finished the race. So good job to them.
Finish is finished.
All day, yeah, for sure. But let's get back on the car a little bit. I wanted to show you guys what we run into after this race. Prior to the race, we basically jacked the car up off the ground, made sure we didn't have any wheel bearing problems or axle problems. We didn't touch anything else. You know, the shocks are the same after the Baja 1000 free run. We did put a set of tires on it, and I'll get to the tires here in a second, why the rears are completely destroyed and the fronts are brand new. But we put a brand new set of tires on it, washed it, and threw fuel in it after shaking everything, make sure it wasn't going to fall apart. Now, after the race, that's a little bit different story. So the first thing that we ran into in the race, and the reason I'm pointing this stuff out is so you guys can use some of these items as a thing to check on your car after you've finished some of the stuff and you're prepping it for the next race. But 20 miles in, it's hard to see, but what you do see is a leaking diff with a whole bunch of oil coming out of that seal. What you can't see is the drive shaft that connects to that differential on the pinion. Or maybe you can see it, Chase.
I might be able to see if we get the cameras in here.
The drive shaft slipped off of the pinion.
There it is.
About 20 miles in, and we thought we had broken axle because we were on the power line road and we were in the air lot. So we came down and it was rattling like crazy, stopped to check it out, and it took us about 4 or 5 minutes to diagnose where it was because we were busy shaking all the axles trying to find it, and none of the axles were a problem. Rolled the car forward and saw the driveline flopping around inside the trans tunnel. So we threw the car in two-wheel drive and ran the whole race in two-wheel drive because we didn't have a drive shaft connected to the front. So that's a lot slower out of the corner, especially sandy corners. It's a whole lot more fun to drive though, because you're sideways all the time, but my shoulders are worn out from constantly being in the thing, counter steering around.
So was that thing clunking around the whole time you guys were racing?
Yeah, it was bouncing, but it's not spinning.
Nothing, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you know, when it was spinning, it sounded like it was gonna take your ankles off.
Yeah.
But when it's not spinning, it just flops on the floor. We just let it do it.
It's really funny. I had the same problem with the same section of driveline at the same part of the race course last year.
So this is maybe normal occurrence around there. You guys should always check your drive lines, but specifically what we found on this one is that factory pinch yoke slides over that. Chase is gonna love this. Slides over the pinion.
Ooh.
It pinches together and it gets tight on the pinion so it doesn't slip off. That pinch assembly, there is a set screw or a bolt that goes all the way through. That bolt is supposed to be low enough to lock it onto the pinion. That's horrible, sorry. But that bolt that goes through is supposed to lock it on the pinion shaft in a groove that's in the pinion shaft. The factory bolt isn't large enough in diameter to get in there. So it really needs to be drilled out, a larger bolt put in it so that it locks on the pinion. That's a recommendation we have to at least tell you guys to look at, because even with that bolt in there, it slides right off. It doesn't have any locking ability.
Justin, Mike Dubb said, use 4 fingers for Chase.
There it is.
What
Way
up,
past
Mike?
shocker, Chase.
What up, Mike?
Reno 6.7, what brand mirrors are those, Justin?
I don't know. They came on the car.
Let's establish also that this car was predominantly, this is how you bought it, outside of a couple upgrades.
Yeah, we didn't build the car. The car was originally built by Geyser Performance for Bruce Kennedy. Sorry, it took me a second to
race,
read.
right?
Yeah, actually, we started next to Bruce. So get a load of this. So the car was built for Bruce Kennedy. It's basically a stock car with arms on it and a cage and spare tire mounts and some of the safety stuff like window nets thrown at it. Basically it. As a matter of fact, the bumper isn't far enough forward to be legal because the bumper is actually behind the tire. So that means if you came up to bump somebody, you'd kiss tires, and that's a big problem. So we built a real cheesy extension just to make the car legal for any class in Best in Desert. But so the car was built for Bruce to be a fun car. He had a great time with it, decided to go get more serious or whatever it was, and we bought the car from Bruce as it sits. We took the car and pre-ran the Baja 1000, had 0 problems. Brought it back, washed it, put fuel in it, entered the race. So we're here. We are at the start of the race, and we're starting basically last in class, and it's 2x2 start. And we look over to the left, and guess what? It's Bruce Kennedy in his new car.
And he had to see the tail lights from then on.
I got whooped. I got smoked off the line. This thing doesn't have a big flash or anything in it. It's pretty much stock. And Bruce got me, and we rode in his dust for a little bit. Then I think he had a problem shortly after that, and we got past him. But it was kind of cool to sit next to the guy that we got the car from, and I know he was looking over there too, and we were waving and having a good time, and sticking our tongue out and other things.
So Justin, is this class more of a, I know it's serious because it's racing, but is it more of a fun, like is that your beginner class? Like if you're gonna start racing, that's where you should start?
Well, I think it can be because it's more flexible on the rules. You can enter a car that's not quite full tilt fuel cell race car. So for that reason, it is a good place that you can start from your vehicle standpoint. And I would recommend it. But really, you can start in any class. Some of them are more expensive to build a car in. That's for sure.
Triple Digit Sketch asked, "What's the best class to start in?" So
That was
maybe
kinda going into the next question is, what is that the best class?
Well,
to
I mean, you
start
got sportsman, you got rally. What's another one that's coming up?
They've now got pure stock. They've got open. They've got RS1.
Yeah, so if you're running a stock RS1 and you want to learn in that, then run it in RS1. If you want to, you can enter it in rally. You can enter it in pure stock.
So-
all of those are gonna be great places.
Pure stock, they only allow you 2 gallons more or 1 gallon more than stock. Maximum is 11-gallon tank you can have.
I see. So
Where rally, you can actually run an auxiliary tank. Sportsman, you can run an auxiliary tank.
different levels of stock, but they're basically stock, right, Steve? So-
Yep, UTV Guide is also in the house, and they said that the Parker Loop is too small to have that many UTVs on the course. Was there a lot?
I would agree, John, with that one. The lap was 61 miles. There was over 200 entries, and they were all on the course at the same time. So if you do the math on that, and I'm not very good at math, so good, but that's about 3.5 cars per mile on the course at every moment in time. So no matter what mile you're racing, you have 3 cars to pass in that mile.
Didn't they
Somewhere.
figure that out from Blue Water? Because
It
Blue Water
really
was
destroys the course.
120 cars in 22-mile lap.
Yeah, but I will tell you this, that the guys at Best in Desert do an amazing job of putting these events on, and they did not expect the turnout. I talked to them in tech, and they were excited when they had 120 entries, and at 120 entries, it's only 2 cars per mile, and that's a piece of cake because you're one of the other cars. So that means you've got one other guy to pass in a 120 car entry field, and then everyone showed up last minute. And maybe they should have had a longer loop, and I think next time, knowing what they have seen with the growth, that'll happen. But it wasn't something they did on purpose.
Jake Carver says, nice work, guys. Tell Justin to run that same tune in his new car.
Yeah, it's the only one that's lived and not broke at this point.
Make a good point, Jake.
Honestly, let's just give up on the race car completely, and we're just going to run the pre-runner from now on because the thing doesn't break.
Here's a question.
What do you got?
Robert Campbell says, thoughts on running the Pro Class side-by-sides on the full Parker 425 loop on the same weekend?
I think it would be amazing. I think that would be great. More distance, more better. I love Baja. Let's go 1,000 miles or 800 or whatever they want to call 1,000 that year. I'm all for it. So make it longer, more terrain you haven't memorized, I think is awesome.
Mark L 2103, stock diff or Halo 30?
So that one is a Halo 30, and the reason that we have that is because we actually just yanked it right out of the other pre-runner. It was the only diff we had laying around for those axles, and it wasn't for any other reason, but it was really giving us fits at the 1000. We actually didn't run it for half the time. We ran it 2-wheel drive at the 1000 because one of the bearings was going out on it and losing oil. So we put it in this car, threw a new seal and another bearing in it, and it still leaked. So it's a good thing it didn't. We didn't run 4-wheel drive, honestly.
We did forget about one class, Justin. The Pee-wees, the 150s, the 5.7.
That's run on a different day.
Yeah, but the people in here in the feed were
Well,
wanting.
I guess you're right. So that'd be the best place to start if you're young. How's that? So
See chasing a little
so
1.7.
So Chase, you and a 570 would be perfect place for you to start.
That's a 569 for me, Justin. I would bore it down.
Good one. That's quick. Actually, I got.
Justin, I do have a good question and then a great answer also in the comments. Somebody asked, can I run a speed UTV in the rally class? and then someone did answer and said, you can't race a PowerPoint presentation.
God.
So hold on, let me.
A lot of love for
So that's really funny.
There's a bunch of Speed UTV in it.
That's really funny, but yes, you could run it because it's fairly stock, and it would meet the rules if you had fire extinguisher, safety nets, and that's about it. And so you could do that. You could also run it in Pro Turbo, because with fire extinguisher and safety nets, as long as the engine stayed sealed in stock. So you can run either one. That's a good description of how those classes overlap. Steve?
This is off topic, but I will answer this question. OCF Motorsport says, how often do you recommend rebuild on an RIS system in the racing side of things? Every 1,000 race miles is what we recommend.
There you go.
Off subject as well, Steve. Glamis appointments. How do people? They just show up and get in there?
Glamis is over.
Glamis is over, but yes, first come, first serve. So if you make an appointment, if you show up at, I think we had a guy show up at 2:45.
That sounds misleading, Steve. No. It is not first come, first serve. It's you have to make an
that's what I said.
appointment.
If you have
You
an
have to
appointment.
have one in advance. You have to call us in advance, get that day.
Correct.
And then the people that we have appointment and scheduled for that day, they are first come, first serve. Only they.
Correct.
That day.
Yes.
We will be there next. When's the next we're going to be there, boys?
Next year.
Next year.
Camp
Okay.
Razor.
Camp-
Well, this year.
This year.
October?
This
Yep.
year, October.
Yeah, it'll be Camp Razor October, whenever that is.
Okay.
Justin, people have had enough with the pre-runner. They want to see the race car.
Not gonna happen, guys. I don't know. Let me have this camera, because I don't trust Chase to do this right.
Hey, I like my job.
But
I think we can do this more often.
1, 2, 3. There's the race car. It's gonna be a little while before that one's done. So back to what we were supposed to talk about in this one. Although
Yes.
this is kind of good stuff. So first, let me apologize to Robbie, because I love making fun of the fact that there's not any of those cars. He is doing an excellent job of trying to manage the process of production on a car that's never been built. It's not easy. He's behind. Give him a chance. It'll happen no matter what. It's going to be a pretty badass car when it's done. In the meantime, I do not have any opinions about the car because I have not driven it. Do not ask me. Although I like the ideas. How's that? We should say that every single time. Back to this. So we lost the driveline. There's a reason for it, because we didn't upgrade that bolt. You guys make sure that you upgrade the bolt on the pinch side of that driveline, and you won't have the problem that we did. Because of that, at 20 miles in, we ran the whole race in two-wheel drive. And Chase, that is why you can look at these tires up close and personal, and you can see they're brand new. And now you can look at the back ones and see they're completely chewed up and halfway gone. And that's what rocks will do when you're in two-wheel drive and trying to get some.
I want to see Phil's tires. He ran in one-wheel drive.
He did actually. Phil Blurton told me that he lost the front diff too, and he was running a two-wheel drive. But the last 10 miles, he broke a rear axle and had to finish the last 10 miles on one tire. That is not easy.
Fourth place, one-wheel drive. Not bad, Phil. Don't be so hard on yourself,
All
man.
right. So other things that we ran into on the car: one, water. Since this isn't a race car, we didn't have a water feed issue, or where we didn't have a feed system where we could feed ourselves some water throughout
You
the
did
race.
have a system, Justin.
So we took some water bottles, drilled holes in them, and put straws in them, and stuffed them in the cup holder in the center console. It was a really bad idea, because what happens when you tuck the bottle in there and then you hit bumps, that bottle squishes and it squirts water right out that sealed straw. And it was aiming at my back, so the whole lower back seat was completely soaked, like I had a diaper that didn't work.
Hell yeah.
And
His catheter came loose.
yeah, we had no water basically the whole race, but that's trivial.
I think I almost saw you lap 2 midway, and he was more concerned about where his straws were than anything else.
Oh yeah, I really like those straws. They're pretty good. My wife's straws I stole. I was trying to get back.
Good job, Jeanette.
So here's another thing. When you run a car stock and you've got all the fenders in the stock locations, like so here's one that's fairly tight, sort of. Okay, those aren't good enough. All these attachment points will come loose. All these plastic rivets will come loose. So I'll look at this one. Half the fender is gonna come out. We lost the tail light. Looks like it was bouncing around here for quite a while. So if you're running any of these classes with a lot of factory fenders, and make sure you've got way more hardware on there holding it in place. What do you got, Matt?
I lost the same taillight.
Matt, you lost a whole
But
lot
Matt-
more than that.
But
You
did you
lost a
lose it in
whole
the same
race.
place?
I was gonna say, there's
You lost a whole race season. What are you talking about?
Same problems, different finish.
So we lost that. Also, let me check the rest of my list. If you look inside, you guys will see.
Justin, I hear something about a loose rear muffler. Is that?
Chase, let me talk about what I want to talk about, okay? Because maybe I didn't want to talk about that muffler.
Okay, well.
Maybe we'll talk about your muffler instead.
Oh, whoa.
Chase did lose a bet.
this is
And this is a perfect segue right into the bet loss.
I heard he didn't pay up.
This is true.
bull. No, hey, I am a man. I tried, boys.
Hold on a second. There it is. So Chase, let me describe this, okay?
Wow, like
Don't
your
stand
job's
close
that
to me,
hard.
Okay. But
Steve.
so Chase bet Tony that if we won class, that he would
They were starting last. This was supposed to not happen.
that he would butt chug a beer. Now, if you guys want to know what that is, Google it, and then
Don't do it.
Then clear your history. Otherwise, you're gonna.
Don't make bets you're not willing to keep, people. That's all I could say.
And so Chase is making excuses and goes and buys some mini Coronas and all kinds of stuff to try and make it easier on him. And then I think he completely talked himself out of it, and everyone let him get out of it, which that is temporary, Chase.
Not how this went down.
It's gonna happen.
I attempted to butt chug a beer. Let's just say I failed. Like when Matt attempts to enter a race and doesn't finish the race. Okay? I pulled a Matt, all right?
All right, you get the camera back now.
That's
By the
enough.
way, I
So
only didn't finish one race. I finished all the others.
I only didn't finish one butt chug, Matt. Leave me alone.
So you do this more often than once?
show inside the car, Chase, because the inside of the car is bone stock as far as like dash and center console is concerned. We did throw some seats at it and seat belts, but there's the cup holders on your left on the center console where we lost our water from. That's a bad attempt at keeping water in the car.
Do we
But-
find the straws?
I haven't looked yet. I bet you they're down in there somewhere. That's to be found later on. Other things that we had on the car, no steering issues because we've got our rack in it. But another thing that's always common is losing upper and lower ball joint pins. So after this, we're definitely going to be replacing those. They're kind of inexpensive and they're a race ender if you have an issue. We've had the car jacked up off the ground and we can see a little bit of bearing play in the hubs. So bearings are starting to go. Pretty typical for these, so you're going to be swapping those out for sure. But if you look at this side, you can see that this front CV boot caught a rock or a bush or something. It's got a pinhole in it. It's been throwing grease all over the place and grease up on the fender. So that would probably last probably 300 or 400 miles, I would say. What's that? Oh yes, Jason, my brother and co-driver, definitely caught a bush to the face. Right, Chase? Chase is like, yeah. And the reason is that we were trying to pass somebody, and they weren't being very kind about getting out of the way, and we didn't want to hit them harder, I should say, because we did hit them a little bit. But we had to make a way around them, and there was a couple of big trees in the way. And as we're coming down, it was a straightaway about 70 or 80 mile an hour, and it's two trails coming to one turn, and we weren't going to lift. So I asked my brother, "You okay with eating that bush?" He said, "Yeah." And we went straight through that thing, cut the bush right off with the front arms, and it ended up in his lap. And it was one of the ones that is completely thorny, like everything in the desert.
Yeah.
But it took him 15 minutes to get the thing plucked off of his suit because it was like, "Ah!" And he's trying to throw it out, and it stuck to his glove, and it
Out
won't
the
come
net
off.
too, out the net, going individually out.
Yeah, he peeled a bush off of him for quite a while. I felt bad.
Most of the time, depending on how old you are, a little bush isn't that bad.
But this bush was painful. Definitely have some issues with it. He's good. He's a good trooper though. He took the bush in exchange for a pass, so that was worth it.
You guys did destroy all of my GoPros this race.
That was actually not us. That car that we're talking about that we had to go around that wouldn't get out of the way, it was in the wash. And when we tapped him, he just floored it, right? And so he's throwing up rocks out of the wash, and it's pounding our visor, knuckles, and it blew out the GoPro lenses. All the GoPros that we had on the car are completely busted from that one
But
spot.
Justin, let's be clear. They're your GoPros, not yours.
This is very true. You do as you please.
And you know what? And let me be clear. It's all racing. That's fine. If people get out of the way quick, they get out of the way slow. They never get out of the way. Whatever. No bitching, no complaining. Just make the pass however you can, as clean as you can. Try not to wreck anybody's day.
You were Dan.
I'm not bitching. It's just all fun, I think.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. Other things to think about when you guys are looking at prepping your car. These arms were powder coated black and they were perfectly new. There's nothing left that's raw metal on this. And all of these dents are from, rocks from following somebody, and gets kicked up and destroys parts. Well, these rocks take out shock shafts. They dent shock shafts, they cause leaks, they cause other issues. So when you see a lot of damage to the arms like this, you need to be sending the shocks in even if they don't have problems, because a small dent in one of these or a messed up portion of the hard chrome surface will take the seals out. This right here, this sandblasting, is definitely telling you to take a look at this stuff. And we'll repowder coat everything and make it look good, but it's telling you there's other things to look at. What do you got?
Jason wants to let Chase know that he still wiped your busted camera, Jason.
This is Jason. Okay? You are the man. That's all I could say. It's a thought that counts.
Camera with no lens on it, right? Hey, I apologize for the tree, Jason, but it was worth the pass. Other things that we had on the car. Let me check the list, and this is a list of stuff before we've even taken the tires off of it to take a look at it seriously. We had no belt issues, but we lost a belt with that tail light. It was kind of zip tied around and near it, so that left the car when the tail light left the car. On the muffler, we had one of the mounts had a crack in it, but that was really not an issue and did not stop us from finishing the race. Front diff was leaking even though we weren't using it, which meant that would have been another failure if we had been running four-wheel drive. It would have just gone away quicker. What do you got, Steve?
Justin, there's a couple people, I'm just going to make the question myself, but there's a couple people asking, is there anything that you would put on the shock to cover the shaft, whether it be a rock guard or the sock, whatever they have? Is there something that you'd recommend to cover that to save the shaft?
I would suggest running a rock guard like is run on the rear. It's open and hard plastic. And we would probably put that on this car if we decided to race it on a routine basis. But like I said, this was last minute. We didn't care much about that. But I would not run a sock or would not run a complete bag. The reason for that, the reason I don't like that is that the complete sock or bag retains heat and you can really overheat shocks doing that. Second, it'll hold things like moisture and mud in there, and that'll just bounce around on the bump stop, and when you compress it, it'll shove that mud up into the seal and cause issues. So I would suggest only running an open rock guard like they run on the rear. So diff leaking, wheel bearings, front arms blasted, and fuel filler. We didn't have a problem with it.
Jason might have had a problem.
Yeah, one of the guys did. The problem is that these are not designed for filling fast, and there's no big vent on these. And we took one of our dump cans and necked it down to a smaller diameter that would fit, and all it does is blow vented fumes back out at you, and you don't end up getting it filled. So we short filled the car on accident. We stopped for fuel once, filled it up, and then we left, and we only had 2 bars of fuel. So we ended up having to stop again and fill it up, and it just takes forever to do. So that's one of the things that keeps the speeds in rally down, is having to fuel a lot more and your ability to fuel fast or not.
So does it spill that way? Like, because you don't have it set up the other way, does it spill a lot?
Yeah, it spills all over the place. So the guys, when they were fueling the car, actually had jugs of water ready. When it spilled over, then they were just pouring it all over the car to make sure that fuel didn't stay around and all over the guys.
There you go.
We had 2 extra people in each pit just with fire extinguishers because we knew it was going to be a messy fill. If we were to ever run this car again, I would probably change that to like a quick fill, something a little bit more safe. Not necessarily trying to make it faster, but definitely trying to keep it off of everybody. That's for sure. So the moral to the story, that's the only things that we had go on with the car. But the moral of the story is that you really need to be checking everything after every race. I know a lot of racers that'll run the race and they'll replace what's broken, and that's it. That's all they take a look at. You really need to be taking half the arms off the thing, pull the CVs and axles out of it. You need to check all the joints, pivoting joints for all the control arms, spindle, hub. You want to make sure that anything that is moving, a suspension part, a shock, a steering, is inspected heavily. So you're changing radius rod joints if they need to be done. You're changing bushings where they need to be done. You're certainly doing wheel bearings on a routine basis, otherwise they will fail. So go a little further than you think, especially when you're concentrating on the things that you broke. Go farther than that if you can. You guys got any good questions that we can hit before we're out of here?
We got one here for shock. When should I make a shock appointment to get my shocks rebuilt in August, Steve?
If you're just sending it in for rebuilds, send them in whenever, and it's usually about, right now we're about 2.5 week turnaround on rebuilds, but send them in whenever, or call if you're looking to get valving too. Call in and set up an appointment.
And we also had ITR, seal savers. Anything with seal savers, would you recommend those?
That's the same, that's
Okay.
Full wrap or half wrap?
I think that's basically the full wrap on the seal saver.
Okay, not just.
Yeah, I don't know the product specifically, but back to what I said, you want an open guard that doesn't trap anything versus something that's completely wrapping the shock. So, but I'm not familiar with that one particularly.
Last one here. Eric Perkett, how often do you rebuild the steering rack?
With our billet rack, we don't touch it for a full season. And then we take it apart, inspect things, re-grease it, put it back on. With a stock rack, you could probably go 1 race, 2 races, and then you're gonna end up throwing it away and buying another rack. So that's the difference between the two, quite a bit. You buy ours one time and you can just re-grease it once a year forever. You're not gonna have anything wear out.
All right, that's all we got.
Cool. You guys, thanks a lot for tuning in for Tech Tuesday after a race. Thanks to all the other racers that had fun with us too. And thanks to the guys that won all the other classes, especially in the turbo class. So look for us in Laughlin as our next race with the real race car.
I was gonna say.
in Pro Turbo.
Yes.
And hopefully we can keep the momentum going that we might have gained a little bit and push it towards the next race and give the fast guys a run if we can. Thanks again, Steve. Send us out.
If you guys are looking to buy any products that you saw in our car today, visit our website at www.shocktherapist.com. Or if you have any questions, please call into the shop at 623-217-4959.
Reno 6.7, maybe I should start an OnlyFans. This is a good point.